Live from Detroit, it's the Lowdown on Motown Sports Podcast with your hosts, Dane Williams, Junko Bodie, and Bob Daniele. If you're looking for the best present to take to your mother-in-law's birthday party, you're in the wrong place, dude. We talk Michigan sports here. It's real, it's raw, and there are no punches pulled. What happens when you put a gambler, a rocket scientist, and a radio jock in the same room? Well, we're all about to find out, and it probably won't be pretty. But whatever happens, it will be lively. So grab a brew, sit yourself in your favorite rocker, and take notes if you're some kind of nutcase. The boys are back in town and talking about the stuff that matters, Motown sports. So let's get to it, people. Here's the host of today's show, Rockin' Robert Daniele.
What up, doe? Welcome to the Lowdown on Motown Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Bob Daniele, along with lifelong buddies, the guys that do a lot of the heavy lifting on this podcast, Blue Dane Williams and Junko Bodie. Well, guys, all is right in the world of Michigan and Lions football. Wolverines win in convincing fashion, and we enjoyed the Bryce show. And the Lions basically said, "Who's your daddy?" to Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears. So let's get into it. Now, Dano, I couldn't help watching the game on Saturday and Michigan scoring 63 points. I thought of you, my friend. I thought of all those times back in the day when we were watching games and when we were much younger men, you would do push-ups for every score to match the score that the Wolverines put up. Are you still doing those push-ups?
I am, Bobby. I am. But I had
on
to
your
quit
knee?
after on my knee, yeah, halfway down. I had to quit after 42 this time. So I had to take a number of breaks to get to 42, and I said, all right, I'm done
But
here.
how many total push-ups did you do, man?
Oh, okay.
7.
Wow.
Well, we're
27,
taking
so-
breaks, so okay.
Yeah, we're taking breaks in between. So,
Hey,
but,
so-
I think
you
I
know,
ate 147 Oreos during the game. I don't know.
So I want to recall one time we were in some Las Vegas casino, and Dane, you were doing some push-ups while we were watching the game in the sports book, and they called security over on you, didn't they? It's like,
yeah, they did. They
Or-
said,
or
what are
the
you doing
paramedic.
molesting that floor?
Yeah. You know, my guess is he was drinking. I don't know. What do you guys think? In Vegas?
In Vegas?
Watching football? Yeah.
hey, so Junko,
funny.
you said the Lions were lost, and uncreative was the word you said, with Ben Johnson now in Chicago. So you still taking that train, my friend?
No, Bob, I am humbled. As hard as that is to believe, I just want to say now, I'm a believer.
Oh, okay. Well, you quoted 2 songs there. I'm a believer, and it's hard to be humble. So
Humble.
overall, it was a fabulous weekend for Michigan sports fans. They even got a well-pitched game from the Tigers on Sunday and a convincing win for MSU. So
Yeah.
let's start with Michigan over CMU. Guys, I'm going to run down some stats for you. Bryce Underwood, true freshman, showcased his dual threat capabilities, completing 16 of 25 passes for 235 yards and a touchdown, while also rushing for 114 yards and 2 touchdowns. Justice Haynes contributed significantly to the ground game with 104 rushing yards and a touchdown. And we had Jordan Marshall added 2 rushing touchdowns, further bolstering Michigan's dominant run game. And of course, that Michigan defense held Central to just 139 total yards, forced multiple turnovers, and recorded several sacks, showcasing a dominant defensive performance. I'll give you key stats. Michigan over 300 yards rushing, 616 yards of total offense. Central only had 8 first downs and 139 yards of total offense. So, Blue Dane, it was Central. So let's, throw that caveat out there. But the offense did look different, more aggressive. And Poggi's comments after the game about making that mistake again, or not making that mistake again, when you're talking about playing conservative football with Bryce. Did that give you, of course, the bluest of blue fans, hope that Michigan has turned a corner. Please expound.
It really gave me some hope. Very, very hopeful going forward. I mean, even, when we played New Mexico, you didn't see that, against a lesser opponent. And then we get to Oklahoma and there's still nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And you heard me last week, they were predictable. They were subjugated, all those great words. But
Great words.
But so promising to see that happen. Yes, it was Central, but it was so promising to see they turned them loose, which they're going to have to do, this Saturday. But it was also good to see, Hansen played a hell of a game at tight end. It was good to see that, Klein was back. Cudzall, some of the backups, Cudzall, Parker, they ran well. It was interesting. I know we text back and forth a little bit. They put the backup quarterbacks in, Davis and Garcia, right? And let them throw the ball.
Let them throw the ball.
Let them throw the ball. And they handed it off every single time. So that was disappointing. The other disappointing thing was Zavada missed another field goal. It's like, what? But
He's your boy.
But all in all, Morgan being the leading wide receiver, that was great. But Underwood spread the ball around nicely to his receivers, and the running game is still fantastic. So there was Central. Yes, we've got a bigger test coming up this weekend, but it was very encouraging.
Junko?
Yeah. Well, you said 3 words there. When you were quoting all those stats that was giving Dane goosebumps, I heard 3 words there, and it was it's Central, right?
Right.
Cudzall was great, Dane. He's the Vaki of the Michigan Wolverines for you, right?
Listen to you.
Yeah. Here's the thing: is that the one thing that I heard the whole game that I really wanted to hear was when Biff Poggi left the field saying, "We're not going to make that mistake again," right? And they let Bryce throw his first interception. Hallelujah. Get that out of the way, right? Let it go and let him make those mistakes so it's on film. So when you go back to the film room this week, you can look at that film and you can say, here's what you did right. Here's what you did wrong. This is why this play didn't work. I love it.
His first pass was almost an interception.
But it should have been an interception, right? So he should have had 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
So last year, and just to kind of talk about a comparison, you're going to have this week against Nebraska, they're going to have to take that governor off again. Last year, Dominic Raiola threw, I think it was 8 touchdown passes, and he had 11 interceptions.
Dylan.
This year, Bryce is in third game. I'm sorry, Dylan. I was thinking of the Detroit Lions center. Bryce just threw his first interception in his third game, so he's probably not. Well, maybe he will, but I don't see him probably doing what Dylan did last year. I think Michigan's going to have to take the governor off against Nebraska. And the one thing I want to say about Bryce is that he's a living organism, right? I mean, I feel like he's like one of those horror alien movies, where the aliens come down and they morph and they start from this slime and they morph into, something that eats mankind. I kind of feel like that's what Bryce Underwood is, right? He's going to learn from all these mistakes that he makes, these experiences that he's had. You could already see how he's evolved in 3 games. What's it going to be like after he plays 8 or 9 games? But can he evolve fast enough this weekend to take on Nebraska? That is the question. So the question is did they turn a corner? The optimist in me says corner turned. The pessimist in me says, let's see it against Nebraska.
Yeah. And it just wouldn't be one of our podcasts if Junko didn't bring up something from some movie, right?
The movies are my life, man.
Kind of like that Terminator, where if all of a sudden there's just nothing but ooze on the ground or this metallic liquid, and all of a sudden it comes back and forms the Terminator.
Comes back. Right. Yeah.
I will tell
one
you
other
that,
thing.
Yes, sir.
One other thing before we leave that is one important thing Underwood needs to learn. He needs to learn to slide, because he's taking on these defenders head on. Yeah, he's a big guy. Yeah, he's tough and all that. But when he gets in those situations, just go down. You're only gonna make a yard or 2 more, maybe. So he needs to learn to slide.
Well, can I tell you the thing that I saw and like you say, taking the governor off, was that 2-minute drill just before the end of the half, right? He He was poised. He was executing the plays. It was very impressive to finish off with that 2-yard run that Jordan Marshall finished off with. So that's good. So now, anything to add to taking the governor off? What else would you like to see happen, Junko?
Well, I'm with Dane. He's got to learn to slide. That's number one, right? That's one of the things I didn't like. The other thing I didn't like was that on the interceptions, he did kind of throw the ball up, and that's when you talk about playing a freshman quarterback, that's the kind of play that you're worried about. That when they get into a jam, or if a deep ball is called, they're going to throw it whether it's open or not, and hopefully they're going to get past that in the throw run. That's what I didn't like. I like getting the interception on tape, as I said. I liked his presence in the pocket. He threw the ball when he should, and he ran when he should. That is very uncommon in freshmen. Very happy with that. But the other thing, too, is that there were a couple of throws where he made where he's got a laser, right? And remember when Joe Milton was quarterback for Michigan and everything was a laser, right? It didn't matter. That's not true with Underwood. He threw 3 or 4 of those balls with touch over linebackers. He laid that ball out there for Samaj on the flag route for the touchdown. Those are not freshman throws. Those are things that I really like.
That's cool. So hey, let's look at the interior though. I mean, I know Bryce is successful, but that's probably in part to an offensive line that was actually missing both starting guards, Norton and El Hadi. And I think this Saturday they're going to be missing again, right? But again, we'll say it's Central. Do you think Ifobi and Frazier are up to the task against Nebraska? Let's go with Dane first.
Yeah, I actually heard today that Norton may be back. El Hadi, he's out. He's out for 2 or 3 more weeks.
I thought it was the opposite. I thought it was El Hadi might be back to Norton was out.
No, he's the one. He's got a severely sprained ankle, is what I heard. So I think Norton is the one coming back, but we can check that. But yeah. I think that's the case. But yeah, I think the offensive line played better. We'll preface it again that it was Central. But when you look at it, looking at that Nebraska game coming up, our O-line against their defense. Now, when Nebraska played against Cincinnati, which was their toughest opponent thus far, and they beat them 20-17.
Really? That's their toughest?
They beat them 20-17. I won't talk about Houston Christian, who they played this last week.
Right.
But they had 0 sacks, against the Cincinnati quarterback, and the Cincinnati quarterback could run also. So I think that's a good. Cincinnati had 202 rushing yards against that defense. So now Cincinnati only threw for 69 yards, but they didn't really have to. They had a good rushing game going. So that's encouraging going into this game. 0 sacks by that Nebraska defense and 202 yards rushing by Cincinnati. And I think our rushing game is much better. So,
all right.
I think that our rushing game could be better, but I'm not sure it is right now with all the injuries that they have. Don't get me wrong. I'm really impressed by Frazier and Garnera. I thought they both were great on Saturday. And it was also great to see the future with Gash and Haywood on the right side of the line later in the game. I really feel like we got a great future for the offensive line over the next 2 or 3 years. But I think the offensive line is the key to the game on Saturday. If we can run the ball with impunity like Dane thinks we can, we could win that game by double digits. And then it's not just the running game; they got to be able to protect Bryce, give him time to throw. So there's a few elements that when I look at this game here, and I say, if I could pick one of these things to be true, where Michigan wins a turnover battle, McCulley gets 100 yards receiving, or the offensive line plays well, I would pick the offensive line stat. I think that's the key to the game. This game's going to be won in the trenches on Saturday, and the team that plays better on the offensive defensive lines will win the football game.
So if I had a dime for every time we said the offensive line is the key to the game, I think I'd be a rich man.
Yeah. Well,
but it is. I mean, it's true every week. I mean, it's like, yeah.
You got to run the football. That's our identity. If we can't run the football, we got a freshman quarterback. It's too much to ask him to win the game with his arm.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
So Sharon Moore serving the first of his 2-week suspension. He'll miss the Nebraska game this weekend, too. Obviously, wasn't that big of a factor, didn't need him against Central, but Nebraska, he can't even be in the building this week. Is this troublesome for the team, Junko?
For the prep, yes. I think for the prep, it is troublesome because he was starting to spend more time with the offensive line. We know that we've had some issues with Newsome-led offensive line and more. It hired Juan Castillo to kind of babysit him, but they seem to take a step forward this week because Sharon spent all of last week working specifically with the offensive line. They seem to be better. So I think from a prep standpoint, they're going to miss him in the building. From the game standpoint, I don't really think so that much. I thought Biff did a great job on the sidelines, managing the clock, managing the game, and I thought the offensive coordinators did a great job calling plays on both sides of the ball. Once again, it's Central Michigan, so we won't know until we get into the heat of the Nebraska game in a very hostile environment. But I would say we'll miss him more on the prep side than we will on the game side.
Hey, Dane, we should take an over-under on how many times we say, again,
Say
it's
Central.
So
Yeah,
obviously the defense was good, right? And so was the offense. They didn't need to punt in the game once. But there are a few things that Michigan needs to clean up, right, for the game before we preview Nebraska. So tell me, Junko, what do you think they need to clean up first?
Well, I think Zavada needs to start being a little more consistent than he's been in the first two games. They're going to need him on Saturday. They didn't contain very well in the first couple of games on the edges. I think that's something that they need to work on in practice this week. Raiola's not a big running threat, not like the other guys they've faced, but they still need to keep him in the pocket, and they need to collapse the pocket. I think that's something they're going to work on hard in practice this week. Two other things that I had was that they got to stop getting beat on stop and go routes. I don't know how many times is Jamar Hill going to get beat on a stop and go route. And we had a couple balls that should have been caught against us, even with Central this week. And Raiola is going to be better than that. He's going to have a little more velocity on that ball, get it there a little faster. So we're going to have to be better and keep those routes in front of us. The thing with the Michigan's defense is that, and from what Raiola's shown in the past games, is that he's pretty good against zone coverage. And they're going to have to keep him on 12, 13, 14 play drives that bend but don't break and hold Nebraska to field goals. I just really want to see them keep the ball in front of them better than they have in the first two games. And the last thing really is the receivers on the edges. They haven't blocked or caught the ball that well. Outside that great catch by McCauley, I don't know, was that last game or the game before? Game before, yeah. They haven't really. I mean, Goodwin had another one go through his hands that would have been a first down this week. Shamaj Morgan had one out in the flat that would have gone for a big gainer, but he clearly dropped it. And then when they're running those tunnel screens, they got to block better. They're just, the defenders are getting past them. They got to be better at that. So those four things to me are the things that they'll really be working on in practice this week.
Dane, anything you see Michigan has to clean up?
Yeah, I agree with Zavada. He'll come around. The misses are anomalies here, the two. Penalties, they had 4 for 45. Central had 1 for 6. I don't know, the refs against us. We were talking about that in the Nebraska game. But I think that's something we just need to be a little better on, especially stupid penalties. We can't, no stupid penalties, no pulling the helmet off and throwing it, right? Okay, or anything like that.
Yeah.
Let's not do that. So I would say those are probably two big things. And I agree with Junko in that they've got to contain Raiola. Flores, when he was in for Central, he had some really good runs against that defense. So now it may have been later. I'm trying to remember if it was later in the game we had some backups in, but still, it's going to be so important to contain Raiola and get pressure on him, as we say almost every week on these quarterbacks, because we can't give him time to throw, especially if we're in zone defense. He'll pick us apart.
Right.
So.
Right.
Well, this is a team, though. I mean, just to kind of continue on with this thought, this is a team where Michigan really ought to be able to pressure the quarterback. He doesn't run that well. He's going to hang out in the pocket. If we're going to pressure anyone for the rest of the season that we play, this will be the game where we can probably get the most pressure. And the other thing I want to say, Dana, to your point about penalties and the receivers, is that Andrew Marsh looks like that he could be something special. I think going on, he's faster than I thought he was. He's got big play potential, but man, he's got to quit getting those stupid penalties. He had 2 more in this game. One cost him a touchdown.
Yep. Yeah,
Michigan had 300 yards rushing, and they had a 50-something yarder and a 60-something yarder called back.
Called back, yeah.
Yeah. So
I agree with you.
The dumb penalties, got to stop with those.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's talk Nebraska, okay? So game is in Lincoln, 3:30 CBS. Nebraska's 3-0. Question mark. Judging against the teams that they've faced, but the crowd is going to be a factor. Yeah, just as it's going to be a factor, just as it was in Oklahoma. What does Michigan need to do to win this game in Lincoln on Saturday? And also, Dane, you start. What can they not?
Well, we talked about penalties, right? Let's minimize the stupid mistakes, right? And they must not. I guess I'll say Underwood's got to make good decisions. He can't make poor decisions especially when he's unleashing that ball. So those have to be solid. Yeah, I mean the Nebraska's got a solid run game. I mean Emmett Johnson is their lead running back. He had 108 yards. Raiola, this was against Houston Christian, but Raiola, had 243. Not real impressive yardage against a team like that, but he can be, right? And we're going against another. I know Junko was saying he's not a great running quarterback, but he can. So we're going against another one that if he gets outside the pocket and we don't contain him, he could hurt us. So we've got to contain him, definitely.
Yeah, I want him. He's one of those few quarterbacks that we play that I want running the football. We have a smash identity. That's Michigan's identity, and this is a game again where I'm going to say it again. We need to own the line of scrimmage. We need, we're going to be on the road. It's going to be a tight game at the end. I want to be able for us to wear down Nebraska and run that ball at the end, and that's going to be huge. And obviously we want to win the turnover battle in every game. Mm-hmm. But Bryce has got to be that guy this week that he was against TMU, not the guy he was against Oklahoma. And let's keep Nebraska kicking field goals. If our defense, if Wink's defense is playing the way that they should be playing, we're going to give up some yards naturally, but I think that we got to be stingy down in that red zone. Got to hold them to field goals.
Probably take away some of those downfield throws that Raiola has been able to do in previous games. Junko, which one of those teams was the Sisters of the Poor of the 3-0?
Oklahoma?
Nebraska's 3-0. Which one of them was Sisters of Mercy?
Oh my God! They were like the Three Sisters.
Akron, exactly. Right.
Akron, which is a horrible MAC team, and then Houston,
the worst team in the MAC.
Christian. I mean, So
they even have a football team. I didn't even know they had a football team.
I had never heard of them before until Nebraska played them.
Right. Houston Christian.
Christian.
I know. So, okay, guys, the Vegas line for Saturday's game has Michigan as a 2.5-point favorite. Over under is 44.5. Feels like a really big game for both teams with CFP implications. Let's start rolling with your predictions. Dane, you first, buddy.
All right. I'm with Junko. We're going to win it in the trenches. I think we're going to have a really good running game again. I think Haynes and Marshall are going to be quite the duo again. I think they're going to be able to run against this defense. And then Bryce. I think Bryce might have another 100 yards rushing, in this game. And then if he makes, the passes that he's capable of making, I see us winning 35-21.
Woo! 35-21. Wow. The line's 2.5.
Yeah.
And how do you know I was going to pick Michigan? I didn't tell you I was going to pick Michigan. Who said I was picking Michigan?
I didn't say you were going to pick Michigan.
You said I'm going to go with Junko. You said
I'm going with Junko on the O-line play that we're going to win it in the trenches.
Well, I got you.
Or it'll be.
I thought you were looking at my notes. I was mad. Okay, I was mad.
Boys.
All right. Yeah, sorry. First team to 27 points. First team to 27 points wins this game. This is a CFP disqualifier for the loser, right? You don't win here, you probably don't make it to the CFP this year. Yeah, I like the over in the game, over the 44.5 as a betting option, and
Okay.
I have the game. Bum, Michigan 27, Nebraska 24.
All
Okay.
right, just a field goal,
Yeah.
huh? All right.
Yep. Yeah, I still have trouble thinking of Nebraska as relevant. It's just maybe a mental block. Their last national title was 2002. The last important game or title game they had was the Big Ten title in 2012. So it's been a long time for this team. So I think maybe Dylan Raiola is the quarterback that's going to take him over the top. I still see Michigan 24, Nebraska 20. Apparently that's the under. So there you have it. We'll see what we do.
Well,
see
you're a half point under there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. All right. Well,
Hey,
it comes to that time where,
Junko forgot to mention that he hates Rule. Don't you?
I hate Rule. I hate him. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I think he talks like a 12-year-old. He's still bitching about our stealing.
I was waiting
sign.
for you to say something about the coach.
I can't stand that guy. I want to win just to beat him. Yeah. So sorry.
Yeah. Where is Tom Osborne when you need him, right?
Yeah.
Everybody needs him now.
Yeah.
Well, it's time to wake the neighbors and tell your kids it's time for Dane's useless but always interesting trivia. So I'll take it away, buddy.
Thank you. Hey, and before we actually get to the trivia, I've got something special today. And I know you guys like these special little things. But do you know the Nebraska fight song? Have you ever looked at the lyrics or okay, well, here we go.
Something about
Hail to the team. The stadium rings as everyone sings the scarlet and cream. Cheers for varsity, echo our loyalty, so on mighty men. The eyes of the land upon every hand are looking at you. Fight on to victory, hail to the men of Nebraska, you. There's no place like Nebraska, dear old Nebraska, you. Where the girls are the fairest, the boys are the squarest of any old place that I knew. There is no place like Nebraska, where they're all true blue. We'll all stick together in all kinds of weather for dear old Nebraska, you.
Woo!
How was that?
Hey, is that real? I mean, are those real lyrics about girls being the fairest?
Those are real lyrics, but I have no idea how the tune goes. So I
agree. There's no place like Nebraska. I'll go along with that one.
I know. I've been there numerous times.
Well, you know what? And I don't think YouTube or Spotify will have any copyright problems with that song. So because it was probably nowhere near.
Yeah, right. There'll be no confusion there. No,
they may delete it just for the poor singing. I don't know. So anyway, on to the trivia. Before 1900, Nebraska football teams were known by a different name than the Cornhuskers, which we'll get to in just a minute. So they had a pretty good team in 1890 to 1900, but after their first losing season in a decade, it seemed only fitting that Nebraska should move in a new direction. So there was a Lincoln sports writer, Charles Sherman, who is to gain national renown as a sports editor of the Lincoln Star and help originate the Associated Press poll. Sherman was tired of referring to Nebraska with these unglamorous terms, like I said, we'll get to in a moment. And so he said, I like the Cornhuskers. They've been called the Cornhuskers here and there. Let's just name them Cornhuskers. So that's what they did. Iowa, for a while, seemed to they preferred the Hawkeyes as opposed to Cornhuskers because they were throwing around Cornhuskers too. But in 1900, they became the Cornhuskers. Now, the trivia question is, I talked about those unglamorous names that they were called before they were called the Cornhuskers. So those unglamorous names, were they called the Antelopes, the Rattlesnake Boys, the Bug Eaters, or all of the above?
What?
All of the above meaning that, like, at any certain time in the 1900s, they might have been that name?
Well, before 1900, because in 1900 they were the
Right.
Cornhuskers. So
Okay, got
before
it.
that, yeah,
I'll say the Bug Eaters.
I'm going to say all of them.
yeah, all of the
All of them?
above.
Oh, okay.
They were also the Old Gold Knights, the Antelopes, Rattlesnake Boys, and Bug Eaters. There you go.
I think they're still bug
Mhm.
eaters. So
Ah, well, very good. Thank you for that.
You are
Um,
welcome.
we
I think
move
I like the
on.
fight song better.
Have I sung better than the trivia today?
We move on to another pleasant conversation. We got the bad taste of the Packers
Yeah.
game out of our mouth, butt kicking the Chicago Bears. And at one point in the game, Detroit scored 4 unanswered touchdowns. And once again, I'm going to run down some numbers for you, okay? Jared Goff, 5 touchdown passes, 334 passing yards. Amon St. Brown, 3 touchdown catches. JMO, over 100 yards receiving, including that deep ball touchdown. Jamar Gibbs gets 94 yards rushing while sharing time with David Montgomery and taking most of the fourth quarter off. I don't know if there's an injury involved there or maybe just resting him. The biggest stat was Chicago was held to 339 yards of total offense and 21 points in Ben Johnson's offense and his return to the Motor City. So, Junko, what, if any, of the above stats surprised you the most?
Well, what surprised me was that we ran Ben Johnson's plays against Ben Johnson, right? And successfully, I might add. Running game was much better than I thought it would be against Chicago. I thought, with Detroit's reputation and Ben Johnson coming from the organization, that they would really gear up to stop the run, and they didn't really do it, or at least they didn't do a very good job of it. And I thought the offensive line, once again, I know I'm big about talking about offensive
Mm-hmm.
lines, but I think the offensive line was much better than I thought it could be against Chicago. So that's what surprised me the most.
Dane, any surprises for you?
Yeah, well, I talked last week, I thought Chicago was a better team than what their record was last year. But I tell you, when you look at, they lost to Minnesota, right? We're just do a little comparison here. Like I like comparisons like this. Well, they lost to Minnesota. Minnesota had to come back. JJ with some heroics at the end, but then Minnesota was killed by the Falcons, right? And I don't think Chicago is just that good this year, and they're making mistakes. Their offensive line, still, I thought after that first game that Chicago had that they were going to fix that offensive line and those false start penalties, but they still had 2 or 3 false start penalties during that game, which hurt them. So, I guess my surprise was that I thought Chicago was going to give them a better game than what they did.
Well, aren't the first plays kind of scripted? They're kind of set, and then after that they kind of play it by ear, see what's going on. So that's kind of Lions scored, Chicago scored, and we go, oh, here we go. They're going to start slugging it out.
Yeah,
But I think
yeah.
when Caleb had to maybe improvise or Ben Johnson had to call some plays on the fly, that's where, the rubber met the road and frankly, we pulled away after that. So let's take a look at the 2 games that the Lions have played. So Dane, is Green Bay that good, or did the Lions just need to have one game under our belt and flip a switch and now here we go?
I think it was a combination of play calling, and Green Bay's a good team. In fact, probably going to be a very good team again.
Right?
Probably better than last year. I mean, they beat the Commanders here 27-18. Pretty convincing win against a good Commanders team. So I think they are good, and I think we just didn't play as well as we could have in that game, especially when you look at what we did in Chicago. I think we finally, the running game, like Junko said, was much better. The passing game, much better. But again, I think we're going to find Chicago at the bottom of the division, and Green Bay is going to be up there at the top of the division. We're going to be chasing them this year.
Kind of like it'll shake out like it did last year.
Yeah.
Although Minnesota gave a run, I think I don't know if you guys saw the latest, but JJ might be out for 2 to 3 weeks. He's
I
hurt.
saw something about an injury, but I didn't hear what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, he's got a high ankle sprain. Yeah.
So
After
Junko,
you're
was
getting
that
sacked
call
6 times, I can understand it. That offensive line is horrible for Minnesota. Anyway.
and against Atlanta, right, Dane? Anyway, Junko, the call late in the first half that gave Detroit an extra 6 seconds, the Tesla catch, which amazing, 2 acrobatic catches and 2 opportunities. Was that the key play of the game? What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not sure it was the key play, but it was a key play for sure. I mean, it changed the game. I mean, if they don't score that touchdown there, it's still a game at halftime. But once they scored that touchdown, Detroit was in complete control of that football game. So yeah, I guess you could say with that. I don't know what was up with the referees. There was a lot of miscommunication during that game. I don't know what that referee on the sideline was doing there. Even when they got the ball set, they got a guy stand over the ball when they won't let Detroit snap the football, right?
Yep.
And you're going, what's going on? I mean, make a call, right, of some kind. And even if the replay comes down and says, let's review it, but make a call. And so I was really disappointed with the officiating in the game. But that play absolutely changed. It changed the momentum of the game.
Yeah, Dane, any other key plays?
Yeah, and I think the refs couldn't get the time right, remaining time right either, right? But
I didn't think it was fair that they ran 10 seconds off, because that was a blatant mistake by the refs.
I'm not even sure that Tesla wasn't out of bounds. I know that guy was on him,
close.
but you can't tell if he's touching him or not when he slides out of bounds, right?
Yeah, that's right. So it was 22 and they ran 10 seconds off. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that certainly, that catch by Tesla, he's made 2 weeks in a row and made just an outstanding catch for a rookie. I mean, amazing what that kid has done. Key play of the game, boy, like Junko said, it certainly turned the tide. It kept the momentum going into the halftime and right coming out of the, for the second half. So yeah, it was great to see, and good second, really good second half.
Not only for momentum, but also the I don't want to call it demoralizing, but the embarrassing shot of Ben Johnson having to come back onto the field, where they're going, not so fast, and he had to come back to run the last play, and then of course he came back to see him score. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
It was fun to see him come back.
So, Dane, the defense seemed to have some really good moments, and maybe, I mean, I know we're grading on a curve because everything seemed to go well, but some not so much. So what did you like about the defense, and what maybe not so much?
Well, I'll start what I didn't like so much. In my career, we used to go to nuclear power plants, and we'd always tell them, we're not here to tell you how good you are. We're here to find out where you can improve. So that's what I'm going to start with, because that's just my nature, right? So I would say that, Swift actually had some long runs. If you look at it, he popped off a few long runs. He was 12 for 60, 12 attempts for 63 yards. So not bad, but he had some long runs that kind of took us by surprise. And I think the other delta that I'd have is the zone D didn't work well at times. AKA that first TD by Chicago, it was like, what is going on here? So I think, that definitely needs to be tightened up. But on the positive side, Brian Branch is playing lights out, and that hit that he had to cause that fumble was just amazing. And then the defense, the stop on 4th and 1, I thought was great, because I thought they were, it was going to be easy. Caleb just pushed his way in, and they stopped them. I thought that was great. And then Kirby Joseph, of course, that great interception. I mean, that was very nice. So those were the positives I saw in the defense.
Yeah, what did you like, Junko?
Yeah, exactly what Dane said. I thought the way they got Chicago to turn the ball over was gigantic. That hit, like you said, the hit Branch made on the football, jarred it loose. Man, that guy's, I don't know, went farther that the ball or that guy's mouth guard. Remember? Oh, that thing just flew out of there. That was great. I love those. Anyway, And the interception by Joseph was they've had a lot of opportunities for interceptions the first couple of games and they weren't making the plays. And I thought Joseph made a great play on the ball there and got the interception. On the negative side, they're still not getting enough pressure on the passer, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you can see that they're double team and sometimes triple team in Hutch, right?
Yeah.
And again, I'm going to get on Holmes when he said we don't need another pass rusher. BS. We need another pass rusher. Go find one. We get a small window to win the Super Bowl here in the next few years. We need another pass rusher. Go get one.
Do you think
That's your job.
the message to the defense though was contain rather than really put the pressure on him? Because it just seemed like they were trying to contain him, keep him from running. Because he's the dynamic runner. It seemed like it would, but because I think what do we have, 1 sack? That was probably
Yeah,
it,
Hutch got his first sack.
yeah.
That was
Yeah.
that was a highlight.
I think we had more than 1 sack, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It
We
was.
had 3 sacks. I'm sorry, we had 3 sacks.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Hutch had one,
so-
and then Davenport had one, and then he's got an injury going out too. So, that may be a overall negative. We'll see.
He was hurt most of last year too, wasn't he?
And yeah, he was. But what about Brian Branch? It seemed like there were 2 of them on the field at any given. He was all over the place.
yeah.
He is
Negative-
Detroit's best defensive player, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I think so too.
And Joseph, our safeties, we have 2 All-Pro safeties and no linebackers. That's
And
what we have.
well, I would also put Terry and Arnold in the negative again. This Roma Dunze beat him twice.
Yeah,
And you can't have that going forward.
Yeah.
But let's talk coordinators. I mean, Ben Johnson, everybody said, hey, he's coming into town. He's going to show us what he can do. But, I think the players stepped up and had the back for the 2 new coordinators. I'd be real curious to hear what you guys have to say. But Junko, why don't you go first? How'd they think they did?
Well, I thought they adjusted this week,
Mhm.
and sometimes it does take a little time when we're on a new team. I mean, last week was their first game for both of them. Again, at game speed, and I think they probably learned some things from that. So I thought they did a great job of adjusting. One of the things that they did that I really liked was in this game they came out and they used the pass to set up the run, and that was something that they did with some success last year too. And I thought they did a better job of that again on Sunday. And the other thing that they did a lot of that I think helped the offensive line, and I said the offensive line was a lot better. I think one of the things that helped them be better was they used a lot of traps in the game. And a trap can slow down a defensive line because, if you run through the offensive line, nobody's blocking you. There ought to be a bell going off saying, why aren't these guys
going on?
blocking me, right? And then
Right,
along
yeah.
comes somebody who traps him and knocks him into next week. And the Lions did that on 3 or 4 plays for big runs. I thought that was a big adjustment. The other thing that they did was they threw the ball deeper this week, which really put the linebackers for the Chicago defense in limbo. When you're a linebacker and all the throws are going behind you, you have to kind of back up at the line of scrimmage, and I think that opened up the running game for Detroit as well. So I think they did a lot of things that really helped out the offensive line in this game.
Cool. Dane, what'd you see? What'd you like of the adjustments?
Yeah, I think both coordinators, called good games. I will say that I think the Chicago D is nowhere near the Green Bay D.
Right.
So,
Yep.
we have to look at that. But obviously a lot better. The offensive line, too, I think blocked better. But again, Chicago versus, Green Bay D, which I think is just, they're not comparable at this point. But I think overall, better play calling. Agree with Junko down the field. The running game it was so nice to see that running game come back. So we just got to keep it going against the Ravens coming up.
How about Kelvin Shepard's intensity? I thought Aaron Glenn had intensity, but this guy, I like his look. I like his intensity. So here we go.
Dreads, yeah.
You like the dreads? Any hair is appreciated by
Yeah,
me.
exactly. I know what you mean, buddy. I know what you mean.
So Lions travel to Baltimore. The Ravens and John Harbaugh. Vegas line has Baltimore a 5.5-point favorite. The over-under is 51.5. It's going to be a tough one. Probably, maybe the toughest opponent the Lions could be facing all year long. That's yet to be seen. But it's going to be how do you see this game, Junko? I'm like being a Lions homer. You know where I'm going to go, but
Well, I know where you're going, yeah. And here's the thing, I think you're absolutely right. They're going to play the Baltimore Ravens, the best defense in the NFL, on the road on Monday night. That's a trifecta, baby. That's as
Yeah.
hard as it gets right there. And Lamar Jackson equals beast. That guy, probably maybe the best quarterback in the NFL, if you take all attributes into consideration. It's going to be physical versus physical. Harbaugh's play physical football. Dan Campbell plays physical football. And so we're going to have a very physical football game. But we're also, I think, going to have a very high scoring game because both offenses are more proficient than the average NFL team. Yeah, I look at it and I think to myself, the Lions are going to have to come out and they're going to get the best of their coordinators in this game. They're going to have to get the best out of Dan Campbell. I think the Lions are a serious underdog in this game.
We're going to go with scoring predictions in a second, but Dane, how do you see this game going? Or what do you see the Lions have to do?
I think if it was home, I'd feel a lot better about this one. Being away, and this is one early on when we were saying, what's our, prediction for their record this season? I said, this is probably one that they would lose. The Ravens lost to the Bills 41-40, so they're scoring a lot of points, even though they lost that one. They beat the Browns 41-17. Now the Browns, it's the Browns. Like a CMU, it's the Browns.
Yeah.
But, they're scoring a lot of points. So the Lions are probably going to have to score 52 again to have a chance to win this damn thing. They've got Lamar Jackson. He's hell of a quarterback and he's got legs. He can really hurt you with the runs. Derrick Henry is a beast. They got him in the backfield, and then Zay Flowers at receiver, who's having some great games. But really, when you look at, Lamar Jackson, or 2 games, he's averaging like 217 yards, passing, 83 on the ground. Derrick Henry is averaging 96 yards, which is good, but I mean, that's what he's averaging. So it's not, neither one of those numbers are over the top. So
but when you put them together,
ouch. Yeah. So anyway, so I mean, there's 450 yards total yards.
Isn't it interesting that both teams are 1-1, right? And they seem to have taken a similar path so far this year. Lions lost to a tough Green Bay team. Ravens lost to a tough Buffalo, Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo.
And then we both rout our next opponents, Cleveland and Chicago. So, I just worry when the Lions face a good, let's say good, mobile quarterback. Caleb Williams is not good yet, but they'll need to rein in Lamar Jackson, I think. Keep him in the pocket and not ignore Derrick Henry. That seems like a real tough task. So let's go into predictions. How do we do last week? Dane, do you have those numbers?
I do. It was interesting last week. I said 35-28, and you both went, what? They could only score 13 points against the Packers. What makes you think they'll score 35? So I had them at 30. Who said that? And so I had them 35-28. Junko 27-24. Bob 26-21. So
I had a closer.
So we all 3 won. We are all 3 winners.
Yeah, we all 3 won because we all picked the Lions. But you guys,
a funny spread. We were all over the board. Dane had the bigger spread, so he was closer.
I at least I thought Chicago would score more. I thought they scored 28. You guys were more closer to 21.
Remind me during next week's segment to remind Dane that he picked Michigan to win by 2 touchdowns. Okay, just remind me.
I'll remind you when they do win by 2 touchdowns. How's that?
Okay.
All right.
We'll
so
see.
What are the predictions for this week? The over/under is 51.5. And like I said before, the Lions are a 6-point dog. Well, 5.5-point dog. So, Junko, you go first.
At Baltimore, first of all, take the over. It's going to be a shootout. I like the over. I'm going Baltimore Ravens 34, Detroit Lions 27 for a total of 61 points.
Okay. Dane?
I'm close. I've got the Ravens 35, Lions 30.
Okay. And
You also have it over.
Yeah, I think we all three of us have it over. However, I'm doing this with my head and not my heart, and I'm picking the Ravens 31 over the Lions 27.
Well, it must be dire if Bob is picking against the Lions.
Listen, just like
that's like
Dane mentioned before,
Michigan.
Dane was looking at it. You said it. It's if you look at the schedule before they started playing the games, this would have been one of the ones that you would say that looks like a loss.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at on that. Hey, guess what? It's time for Lions trivia.
All right.
Junko, we have to incorporate some sort of No, I'm not gonna sing. I could never top that, Dane.
You won't want to.
So
but maybe you could dance.
I could do some dance. The 52 points scored on Sunday was the most ever for a Lions home opener. That was actually 3 points shy of the most points ever scored at home, which is 55. That's the record. Now I'm going to ask you guys to name the team that we played racking up those 55 points. And I've got, of course, some choices. I've also got some names that will give you a little time and space. Was it 1951 against the Green Bay Packers and Doak Walker and Bobby Lane? Of course, we all remember them, don't we?
We do, yeah.
Was it last year against the Jaguars, where, of course, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra? Or was it 1997 against the same Chicago Bears with Barry Sanders, Herman Moore, and the always incredible Scott Mitchell? So tell me, which one of those teams did we score 55 points in a home game against?
I'm going to go with 51 and Bobby Lane.
Okay. Junko?
I'm going with Barry. When in doubt, go with Barry Sanders. That's my motto. So I'm going to go with the Barry Sanders game.
That is a good motto because that's correct. 1997.
1997.
Against the Bears. So that was good. That's fun. Well, how about that,
That's last year. I don't think I got a single one right. This year, I'm 2-0.
Kicking butt.
You're doing well. Doing well.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks for listening, folks, and know that the Lowdown team will be back for the entire 2025-2026 football season. Note that we are slightly changing our format this coming season. We're covering Michigan and Detroit Lion football almost exclusively, but there will be times when we bring up our other teams when they're doing well, like this weekend, guys. Tigers are opening a 3-game series against Cleveland at home. If they can take at least 2 of the 3, we might be celebrating a division win this weekend. So let's keep our eye on that.
Go boys. Yeah.
All right. We also want to announce that the Lowdown on Motown Sports podcast has a new home on YouTube. Junko, why don't you get into that a little bit, please?
Yeah. So we've always been, we've been doing a lot of stuff on Spotify over the years. We were, on Podbean for a while, but we've decided that we're going to start doing a whole library of our shows. People have been asking about the past shows. And so we're going to have a library at YouTube. You can go ahead and you can subscribe. Once you get over there, you'll be able to hit the like button. You can hit the subscribe button and be part of our Lowdown community.
I like that. So we can actually streamcast on our big screens, right?
You can watch it on the television.
Why would you want to be so mean to yourself? That is a form of self-punishment, right?
I'm going to need a facelift or something. I don't know.
I think any more than your face, but so we all do. I want to say to our loyal listeners, thank you very much. And please remember to share our podcast with your Detroit sports friends and high five that subscribe button. That tells us, and more importantly, tells our sponsors that you like the show. This podcast is part of Junko Bodie Productions and an exclusive production of the Lowdown on Motown Sports Network. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you all on the next edition of the Lowdown on Motown Sports. Thanks, guys.
Peace.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Lowdown on Motown Sports Podcast. If you're liking what you're hearing, then why don't you do us a solid and rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show. And, we're pretty awesome, so why not share the awesomeness? We appreciate it. Again, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Lowdown on Motown Sports Podcast.